Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. Joining me today, as always, is Scott Bogman, and of course, it's you. And today, we're going to start looking ahead already to 2022 NFL. We'll do a quick little recap of the Super Bowl, because Bogman and I really haven't touched too much base with that since it's gone on. But we're going to look at the early odds on AFC, NFC champions, and also the Super Bowl, plus just a tad bit of draft stuff as well, because if there's NFL draft to be had, there's nobody better to talk about it than our own Scott Bogman. But I want to remind everybody, make sure you subscribe to Betting Pros wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget about the Daily Juice, too. Every single day, Matthew Peralta is out there breaking his back, bringing you information on every single sport and creation at bettingpros.com/dailyjuice. And you can be in on that action as well. And Scott Bogman, I know as a Steelers fan, you probably had a nice amount of joy watching the Bengals fall short, but you know, the Rams won. I was off by a point on my score. I said 24-20, one little extra point. That's what I was really missing at the end of the day, which had it gone my way, it would have been spot on, but it feels exactly like the show that we did last week, right? Where we said, hey, it's probably going to be the Bengals covering, it's probably going to be the Rams winning, and wouldn't you know it, that's what it was.
Yeah, look, as long as the Rams win, right? That's what I was all about. And that's exactly what happened. But don't worry, Bengals fans. Dan Marino got back. Oh, man. It's okay. Don't worry. Jim Kelly was. Oh, all right. Well, you guys are still, 6 Super Bowls short of the Patriots. Is that correct, Joe? Is
yes.
it 6 Super Bowls? Yes. And 6 Super Bowls short of my team also. So, okay. Yeah, just make it short. Still 0. You got your wins. First wins in 30 years. But anyway, this is like my first braggy thing I've done about that. But look, the Bengals are great.
You can tell all of that unhappiness just came out at one time from the Steelers season.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot there to take in.
Look, there's some great Bengals fans. Some. I've been hearing it for the last month, so it was nice to see them lose. So, but Aaron Donald and Sean McVay, I don't know, what is all this retirement talk about both those guys? Like, Donald more than McVay. Like, McVay, bro, you're 36. What are you gonna go do? Like, what is he gonna do for the next 35
I know what he's gonna
years?
Do. Well, television is a lot easier.
Yeah, it is way easier, but I mean, that's not going to fuel that fire. I mean, I think you got to stay till you're at least 45 or something, it's a stressful job. I get that. It can take years off you, but you're going to retire at 36 or whatever. I know dude's younger than both of us. So that's just a little crazy. Aaron Donald,
I don't know, dude. If I could retire at 36, I might do it. I don't know if he's made enough money yet.
I understand that, but I mean, you're going to get bored, even if you're on TV. That's why Urban Meyer left from Urban Meyer. And look, he's trash now, and everyone thinks he's not a great person either because of of what he presented.
Obvious reasons
to the world the last year, right? But he was killing it at Fox. Everybody said he was doing a great job. He prepared for that job like he did as a coach, and it was great. Then he went back to coach because that fire is still there, and he had health issues, right? A couple years prior. So, and he wanted to go back. So I just can't imagine that McVay wins the Super Bowl and goes, I have nothing more to prove. I'm done. Yeah. Go and win a bunch of Super Bowls, put yourself in the Hall of Fame like Bill Belichick, and, and then go do TV. You're still going to have plenty of time. The guy could coach for 15 more years and then have a whole career of, TV stuff. So that was just, that stuff shocked me a little bit.
When you say Urban Meyer prepared the way he did, like, in other words, he would go around and kick the boom guy and the camera guy too on his way to the set. Is that
hit up the Chili's across the street the night before?
2 for 1 margaritas, baby. Woo! The Presidente. All right, let's. Any other takeaways from the Super Bowl? I mean, it kind of did play out exactly as I said. We talked about it. That at the end of the day, it's the offensive line of the Bengals. It was going to be the problem, and the coverage of Eli Apple. And guess what? Those are the two things that really swayed this game.
Those were the two things. They were just too obvious, man. It's just too obvious for the Bengals. And there's a lot of teams with offensive line. I mean, the Rams didn't do a great job of keeping Stafford upright. Both those quarterbacks got hurt in that game. Not bad enough to leave the game, but so there are obvious things that need to be fixed on both sides. But yeah, I mean, the Bengals are going to spend some money in free agency. First, they got to franchise Jesse Bates. I know they're working on an extension right now. So that might get done before this airs even. But they got to get Jesse Bates back in the fold. They got to improve the offensive line. They got to keep the core pieces. That's what the Bengals got to do to try to win the North again and get back. But it's going to be a tough road. Cleveland's going to be better. The Ravens are going to be healthy. Steelers are going to have someone new at quarterback. May not be better than Roethlisberger, but Roethlisberger was in the lower third of the year, to be nice to Roethlisberger in terms of quarterbacks last season. So the road just gets harder. That's every single year. That better than anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's put the 2021 season in the past now. Super Bowl's done, and already, of course, because we're degenerates and we love this, we can't get enough of it. The odds are up already, and of course, if you want to see the consensus odds, you can always go to bettingpros.com and check that out. But right now, if you're looking around most of the betting houses right now, we'll just start with the AFC conference right now. The Bills are at plus 350 over on the FanDuel side. Kansas City is at 380. They are the prohibitive favorites. Most books have them as basically this 3.5 to 4 to 1. So obviously no big surprise there. So I'll ask you this, Boggs, of these two favorites, before we start to get into some of the other teams here, do you have a lean between the two of these if you wanted to get in early? Will this be Josh Allen's year finally, or will Patrick Mahomes kind of get back there after, obviously struggling up and down this year?
And it's funny, both these guys might be replacing their offensive coordinator. We know Josh Allen is, right? In Buffalo, because Brian Daboll went and took the head coaching job for the Giants. And now there's talk about maybe a rift between Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes. So Bieniemy might go ahead and leave that Kansas City situation. I think you have to take the experience here, plus a little bit longer odds, plus 380 versus plus 350 on Kansas City. Kansas City's been the AFC Championship 4 years straight. I think a fifth year would not be surprising at all. So, I would take Kansas City between both those teams.
I'll take the other side, actually. I'm going to go on the Buffalo side of this one. I think Buffalo recognizes that they can't keep playing that big game in Kansas City. I think if Buffalo can get this conference championship game, in their building, I really think the Buffalo Bills can go ahead out there and actually make it to the Super Bowl. I really do. And I'm looking at the rest of the AFC and some of the turnover we're going to talk about in a second on some of these teams. Yeah, the Bengals look good. Yeah, I think the Chargers are going to be probably around there, sniffing around. Sure, Lamar Jackson can get healthy and get right. All of a sudden, the Ravens are back in this. But to me, the Buffalo Bills are that team. If I'm going to go in early, they're the favorites for a reason. The favorites don't always get there, as we know. But still, that's where I'm going to go. And interesting news on Bieniemy, too. That is interesting to see if there's any change there. You know what they always say, Bogman? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's an old saying. It goes way back. There you go. Dad joke central.
With the puns already. Thanks, Joe.
Already. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals
2022. First dad joke of the new season.
Fresh start, same old dad jokes. Cincinnati Bengals 10-1 here. Same for the Baltimore Ravens, and then the Chargers at 13-1. Surprisingly, the Colts early going are 13-1 as they're trying to ship off their quarterback. You got the Browns, the Broncos, the Titans all at 13-1 early as well. This is kind of that mid-tier group. So for me, the Chargers feel like a team that I feel like the way Herbert's played, when you have that transcendent quarterback, anything's possible. At 13-1, I think there's some intrigue there. But I know you and I also see eye to eye on Lamar Jackson and him potentially having one more gear in him. And this being not a make or break season, but potentially a very important one where it's time for him as a passer at the NFL level to kind of step it up. If so, what do you think of the 10-1 on the Ravens and the 13-1 on the Chargers?
I'm a little upset that the Ravens are 10-1 because I thought with the bad finish and all that stuff, they were going to be much longer odds. And, bookmakers know what they're doing. They know that, the Ravens had over 20 guys on season-ending IR at the end of the season, and they're going to get better just by staying still. By getting J.K. Dobbins back, by getting Gus Edwards back on offense, by getting Ronnie Stanley back, getting Marlon Humphrey back, and the other pieces on this defense. Plus, Ravens barely miss on their draft picks, right? They tend to make very, very good draft picks. So I think that's about where I would put them. So do I want to bet that number? Probably not. I think, like you said, the most interesting one here is the Chargers at plus 1,300 and maybe Denver at plus 1,300, just because if they do get Rodgers, which I don't think he should do, and you and I have talked about this a couple times, you go from the NFC where you're competing against the Bears, the Lions, and the Vikings for that division versus you would come in and play against Mahomes. You play against Herbert. You play against the Raiders who just made the
I'll take it a
playoffs.
step further. Boggs, you're also competing against a
Buffalo.
dreadful East in the NFC, right? I mean, I'm saying if you're
Oh,
Rodgers,
on
like
the other side. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, Breeze is gone, Brady's gone. I
If
mean, I
Aaron
don't know
Donald
why.
leaves LA, the Rams defense obviously takes an enormous
True,
hit. So,
true.
yeah, I mean, the path to the Super Bowl is much, much easier in the NFC than it is the AFC right now. So, I don't see why he would do that. But look, Aaron Rodgers gave up on his own family. So, it would not be that shocking if he went to Denver. I mean, it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world. I would say it's less likely. They're probably going to try to, as the kids would say, Joe, run him back. So,
Will Aaron Rodgers marry the next girlfriend if he wins a Super Bowl? I'm not sure.
No
Every
idea.
year he misses the Super Bowl and he breaks up with the girlfriend. I don't know if this is a trend. He's just trying to find the right combination.
They're all bad
I don't
luck.
know.
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess. I guess. All right, let's talk long shots here. The Patriots plus 1,600. The Las Vegas Raiders plus 2,500, which I find kind of an interesting one too. Your Pittsburgh Steelers 33 to 1 right now. That's where they're at. Any love for any long shots in the AFC potentially?
Well, I don't think the Steelers should ever be 33 to 1 with Mike Tomlin because he never had a losing season. So their chances of making the playoffs are pretty good. Going to be one of the worst rosters they've had in the Mike Tomlin era. I understand that. So they're probably not going to win it. So, but I don't mind, like you said, 33 to 1, make a small bet, a unit and a half, something like that. Raiders, too much new going on. I don't like that. I think if you're going to pick one of these teams, and I feel like this is the way you set it up, Joe, it's probably the Patriots. Strong defense, second-year quarterback, and Mac Jones. They're probably going to add some playmakers through the draft and free agency for him as well. Even though they are up against the cap a little bit, Jacoby Myers may be gone, but there are so many good wide receivers in this draft, and you have so few needs on this team. I know the Patriots don't like drafting.
That's a big one.
They don't like drafting those first round wideouts, but if Devin Lloyd and if Devin Lloyd and why can't I remember the other linebacker right now?
Jameson Williams would be the other guy too if he falls to them.
Jameson Williams would be a great addition. Obviously, tore his knee in the national championship, may or may not be ready for the beginning of the season. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that the Patriots always kind of have to be in there because of the hoodie. He's a good coach, and they just need a little more juice on offense, I feel like, to make themselves contenders in the AFC.
You think Nakobe Dean would fall to them potentially too? Because I really think they need to.
Yeah. Nakobe Dean and Devin Lloyd are your 2 first-round linebackers. So, one of those two guys.
That's the guy that I would like to see them get.
I would love to see him get like Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave or a wide receiver that is just going to get open for Mac Jones. I mean, you invested in Mac Jones. He's your guy. He had a great year, rookie of the year, all that stuff. So, I mean, let's or no, he was a rookie. Jamar Chase was rookie of the year. But
no, Jamar
Chase runner up. Great pick in Mac Jones, and they just need to surround him with weapons.
Agreed. They needed to surround Brady, too. That was what he was complaining about. They tried with Antonio Brown. Did not work. Let's go and talk about the NFC right now. The Rams, of course, you run it back, as the kids like to say, plus 450. The Packers, plus 600. I actually love this Packer number right now. To me, I would jump on this one because as soon as Rodgers gives you a definitive answer here, and it seems like it's going in this direction, I think that number is going to go to 3 to 1, Boggs. I really do.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are at 6 to 1. Then you got the 49ers at plus 650. The Cardinals at plus 12. The Buccaneers at plus 13. I got to be honest with you, full transparency, I do not love this NFC board at all. And this is the time to get in on the Packers. And you know me, I love Aaron Rodgers so much. So if I'm telling you this is the time to get in on it at plus 600, I would get on it right now because when he comes back and Adams comes back, this goes to, I don't know, 3 to 1 probably, if not 2.5, depending on if the Rams have some weird offseason things happen. What do you think of this NFC board and the way it looks?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it's not as appealing as some of those teams in the AFC, but it also makes it easier to get there, right? So I'm with you in the Green Bay plus 600. I'll say this, though. I think my favorite one here might be just taking a long shot on Tampa Bay. I know Tom Brady has, retired. I'm not 100% convinced that is a lock, right? I think he's probably going to be retired, but I know they're doing everything they possibly can to get him back. But I think once he said it, it's pretty much done. But that doesn't mean that they can't do the same thing they did with Brady with somebody else. Why not go get Aaron Rodgers? Try to go get Try to get Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I mean, try to work something else out because the core of this team is there and intact. So, I definitely think maybe taking a shot on Tampa Bay could be good. Not looking great with Kyle Trask as the quarterback right now. I'll say that, although I do like Kyle Trask more than most people. But yeah, I mean, they get Rodgers or Russell Wilson, and it's going to do the same thing that you just said about Aaron Rodgers going back to Green Bay. The 6-1 for Green Bay turned into 3-1. This 13 would probably turn into 6 for Tampa Bay if they got Russell Wilson or Rodgers or somebody.
All right, let's look ahead at the Super Bowl outright betting right now that you can do on the 2023 Super Bowl. Buffalo Bills 7-1 odds right now. The Chiefs at 750. You got the Rams at +12, the Packers at +13. I keep coming back to the Packers box because I feel like the path is there, and not even just the quarterbacks too, but also, I mean, you're taking away coaches. Let you think about it too. You have new coaches coming in, but also guys like Sean Payton not there anymore. You always think, Sean Payton's a great football coach. There's so much turnover in the NFC. I would be looking to bet the Rams at 12-1 to get back, or the Packers at 13-1 to get back, because you're getting double the amount of odds, and I feel like the path back there is relatively easy. I mean, can we count on the Cowboys? Can we count on a second-year quarterback and Trey Lance really being transcendent? It's possible, but it's kind of a tough sell. I would not bet on the Bengals to make it back there at 20-1. I know it's very intriguing, but teams that lose the Super Bowl typically do not make it back the next year. Just go look at the track record. It's guys named Wilson and Brady. Outside of that, in the last 20 years, it does not happen. So that's kind of where I'm going. The long shots like the Chargers at +2,400. That one I'm kind of intrigued by. The Ravens at 20-1. But Boggs, to me, the best bet on the board are those two favorites in the NFC because you're getting 12 and 13-1 respectively.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think the Rams are probably my favorite one here at 12-1, right? I don't mind Kansas City at 7.5-1. By the way, the experience. You have Patrick Mahomes, you have a chance, right? One that we didn't mention in the AFC, and I should have mentioned it because it's the exact same scenario. I feel like as Tampa Bay is Tennessee. There's been a little bit of Rodgers maybe to Tennessee kicked around, and if he does go to Tennessee, while the AFC is tough, you're in the AFC South with Houston, Indy, who just missed the playoffs, and Jacksonville has the number 1 overall pick. So if that was a real landing spot for a Wilson or a Rodgers, I think that's a great spot too. Good offensive line, great running game with Derrick Henry. Obviously, you have weapons in Julio and AJ Brown, plus that great defense. Probably going to lose Harold Landry, but I think that's a good possibility, and they're 24-1 here, so that's not bad either. But my favorite one, if you're putting real actual money today, is just McVay's coming back. Aaron Donald ain't gonna retire yet. Go with the Rams again.
I don't think he retires either. All right, so enough of the futures. Let's talk about the future players in the NFL. And let's start here with the odds right now on the number 1 draft pick overall. Aiden Hutchinson at the top of the board here, +150. We know that Jacksonville has this pick. Evan Neal at 2-1, +200 right now. These are the odds on FanDuel. Again, for the consensus, you could check out what's going on at BettingPros.com, and BetMGM obviously is going to have odds for these as well, so make sure you go check them out at BetMGM. Kayvon Thibodeau at 6-1. And then after that, I don't really think it's realistic, to be honest with you. But I keep coming back to Evan Neal at 2-1 as a really intriguing wager right now. As we get further into this process, I don't know. I feel like you made the investment in Lawrence. It would make sense to make the investment in Neal. It's almost a no-brainer. As transcendent as defensive players as Hutchinson and Thibodeau might be, I think you got to continue to build on the line and protect your quarterback investment. But Boggs, maybe you have a different way of looking at this board.
I don't. My 2 mocks that I've done for Fantasy Pros so far have both had Evan Neal as the number 1 overall pick, and I don't look. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is the best player. So if the Jaguars are just going to sit there and go, look, we know we got to protect the blind side. They also have a boatload of money to spend. So they could bring back Cam Robinson and have him play left tackle. I believe he played, something like 90-something% of the snaps last season at left tackle for them. Graded out just okay. He played 80%, excuse me. They're also losing their left guard, Andrew Norwell. But they could re-sign both those guys without issue. And then just say, look, we're going to take BPA. That's Aiden Hutchinson, and let's go. I've also seen Iko Ekonwo, the NC State tackle, mocked a couple times that number 1 overall pick, and he's sitting at what did you say it was 8-1?
8-1 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus 800.
I don't think he's a bad option either. And Jacksonville, it's not going to be a 1-year process. Doug Peterson's not going to come in and make this team a playoff contender, I don't think, in year 1. So maybe they trade back. Maybe there's a team that's obsessed with Kenny Pickett. Maybe there's a team that's obsessed with Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe they trade back. And at that point, it would be like, who knows who the number 1 pick is going to be. So we're early in the process, but I think Hutchinson and Neal are your safe bets. The only other one I would take right now is probably a Conwu. But if you wanted to lay money on the quarterbacks, fine. But I think from the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl process, we just kind of found out, we said the word I kept saying was unsettled because I think there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this class, but there's not that franchise. There's no Joe Burrow in this class.
Right.
So it's a guy that's going to come in and probably need to sit for at least half the year before he takes over. I think Malik Willis needs to sit a year. I think Matt Corral could probably need to sit unless I mocked him to New Orleans. I think halfway through the year, he should be starting him over Taysom Hill, but probably, I think that this quarterback class is one of the very few where there's just not a lock to go in the top 5 picks, which is surprising for quarterbacks.
All right. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about the first quarterback selected. You could bet this actually over on the FanDuel side as well. Kenny Pickett plus 120, Malik Willis at plus 150, Sam Howell at 6-1, then Matt Corral at 10-1, Desmond Ridder at 40-1, and then Carson Strong at 80-1. So we'll let those guys go. Do you have a lean so far? Will Pickett or Willis go first?
I mean, my favorite is Willis. I think Willis offers the most upside. He also offers a giant floor. Kenny Pickett is your safer QB option. So this is kind of, like we picking last year between Trey Lance and Mac Jones. I think Kenny Pickett's going to come in and stabilize a franchise. Malik Willis can come in and potentially have all kinds of upside, but are we going to see it this year? Doesn't matter for this exercise, of course. But I think right now your safe option is Kenny Pickett. And I mean, one of the very few words out of, outside of just how these guys kind of separated themselves during the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl process, it was clearly Pickett and Willis that stood out above all the rest. But Matt Corral obviously didn't participate. He just had ankle surgery after the bowl game. And I read, I can't remember who the source was, so I apologize. I think it might have been Matt Miller. But he said he was talking to a scout, and he said the guy that had the best week here was Matt Corral because he wasn't here. So, which is kind of, it's a little damning to this class. And, so Matt Corral, I think if you're not taking those other two, there's no way I'm taking Howell. Ridder is just such an outside shot. So it would be Corral at 10-1.
Corral is a long shot at 10-1. And you think the safer Pickett as the favorite so far?
Pickett's the safer one. Yeah. You're not getting much better odds.
Well, I feel Willis. Like the best quarterback that we always like is never the one that gets taken first. You and I historically have agreed on this, and the order of the quarterbacks we like ends up being the order in which they are good in the NFL, but not always typically the order in which they are selected in the NFL draft.
Right,
from doing shows with you over the years, that's what I've learned.
Yeah, we're both big on Lamar. Although I was Josh Rosen in that class, and
you were, but I was Josh Allen in that class, if you remember too, and everyone thought I was nuts.
Well, that was the class where everyone was like, "Well, these 3 guys will be good, and these 2 guys weren't." I'm like, I think all of them could be pretty good, right? Especially Josh Allen. I mean, couple of my dynasty leagues, I have Josh Allen rostered because I believed in him, and he was going just late. Everyone was taking Lamar and all those other guys. So, but anyway, I digress. It's Malik Willis is my favorite, but Kenny Pickett's the safest to go first. Odds aren't long enough for me to bet that. If I'm betting anybody right now, it's Matt Corral, 10-1.
I like that. I like whether it is maybe just the projectability of Matt Corral being the better investment on the board. But I'm with you about Evan Neal. 2-1 money's pretty good right now. I think I would lock that in. So lock in the Evan Neal. Lock in the Packers over at 13-1 right now. Those are some good odds right now. And 6-1. Double down on that bad boy. 6-1 to win the NFC. And then you might as well go all the way and drop another nugget on there for the Super Bowl while you're at it and get ahead of the game, because you and I both know that number's going to change as soon as you get some sort of answer with Aaron Rodgers. And if it's wrong, it's wrong, but you can always double down on it if it's right at the end of the day. So don't forget about that. And don't forget to subscribe to the Daily Juice podcast and Betting Pros wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. at BettingPros, youtube.com/BettingPros, where we have all of our podcasts on there. The Daily Juice is on there every day. We're going to have some amazing videos come baseball season, so a lot going on here on the betting side, so make sure at BettingPros you are locked and loaded with us for the journey in 2022. It's going to be a fun NFL season, fun off season for sure to watch, and the draft, everything we're going to cover for you here. So that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Scott Bogman, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.